Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cup of Joe, episode 11. I am your host, Joe, and with me, as always, is my wonderful, wacky, and sometimes in-country co-host, Joe.
Oh my goodness, let me take a sip of this good coffee.
Do it, my man.
Oh, it's good to be back.
Oh my God. Joe. Joe.
Yes.
It's been so long.
It's been a while. It's been, time has occurred.
Time has indeed occurred. It feels like we've gone through quite a change, quite a metamorphosis, if you will, over these last couple it's just been, I mean, episode 10, it was just Christmas. It's only been a few weeks. Just a few weeks.
just a couple of weeks. We were talking about going to New Zealand. But now we're off on our own. We don't need no ARC radio club. We're DIY over here.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's the other thing. So welcome back to Cup of Joe, as I said already. This is, as we are calling it, Volume 2. So this is the second iteration, if you will, of this show, where we are going to try and bring you guys some high quality content, at least as high of quality as these couple of Joes can bring you. So a couple of changes. Obviously, we are not at the original place that we're recording at, which was Arcadia University. Rest in pieces. It's not it's not dead. Don't worry. It's just our time there is pretty much dead. So rest in pieces to that. So. New things. I have my own mic, so it's very cool. Listen to how I can touch this.
We're starting an ASMR channel.
We're starting an ASMR channel is what this means. I can leaf through pages. I can tap on a variety of objects. Or maybe I'll make slime and start smacking it or some shit. That's the other thing. We don't have to worry about cursing. We don't have to follow any rules.
Did we worry about it beforehand?
We did in the beginning, remember? Because that's the origins of Flubber Nuggets and Schnikes and Usain and all that sort of stuff, which is wonderful. I don't think we should go hella overboard with all the cursing. If we'll keep it PG-13 rules, so it's we can drop one F-bomb but you have to it has to be really. You gotta earn it, is what I'm saying. You can't just be every other sentence just dropping the F-bomb or something like that. So that'll be a slight rule that we'll impose on ourselves. For all the youngins that we have listening to our content.
The young viewers who aspire to be a part of the Joe and Joe podcast.
Exactly. So we aspire to be a part of this endeavor or this journey that we're endeavoring on. Is that how you speak? It's been a while since I've had to speak to
the education isn't as good when you're online.
No, it's not. It really ain't. God, it's so nostalgic already for me listening to you sip that cup of Joe. It's so nice.
I was thinking about not making it. I really did think about it. But,
that would be sacrilege.
Yeah, I'm
as someone
I can make the same noise with water. I'm it's fine. I'm no. I'm
no.
We got the espresso maker. You make the espresso.
You got the espresso maker. You make the espresso. It's a simple rule of thermodynamics for any Joe, even though I don't drink coffee, but you drink enough for both me and you.
That's about accurate.
Yeah. It might be more than me and you.
Yeah,
whatever.
Probably more, probably.
It's probably a little too high, if we're being honest. All right. So we are a year removed. A whole string of events have occurred. We're not going to talk about that. Who cares? We've all lived through it, or you're dead, in which case you're not listening to this anyway. Good luck to you wherever you are in that case. So, not at school. We are, in fact, in our homes. We don't currently live together, which is a little sad, but don't worry. We are looking at each other. We are looking at each other's digital eyes as we speak right now, at least for the time being. We'll see how that holds out. And we have some stuff that we want to talk about. We have a couple of new things that we want to talk about in the forms of some TV shows and some movies and things like that. And then we have some, of course, kind of the constant that we had back in the volume 1 of the show. We have some comics that we want to talk about, and it's a little special because it's revisiting a series that we constantly talked about and synopsized and theorized about back in Volume 1. And they've released a second run of this series just in time. It literally just wrapped up like the week before we started all of this. It was almost like fate willed this so. They're like, you both chose, you will speak on this topic again. And we were like, okay.
Tempest made the decision.
Tempest did make the decision. For anyone who did listen to all those past 10 episodes, or at least one of them that had one of those things, we are in fact talking about Tales from the Dark Multiverse, that comic run. They had the first 5, and now there's been a whole other run of 5 stories. What? That was me slurring my words, but I meant to say but there. But we will be saving that for a little bit later on in the show. So, with all of that introduction and housekeeping and all that random BS out of the way, Joe, my friend, my roommate, my travel buddy.
Wow.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the first topic that we're going to be delving into today?
All right. Yeah, I would love to. So the first topic Joe and I are going to be talking about is with the podcast, we wanted to kind of talk about a movie, at least pick out a movie. Every time we do an episode here, we're going to flip-flop who picks what movie and everything like that. And so Joe got to pick the first movie this time, and Joe picked the Japanese animated film hit Your Name, which came out in 2017, directed by Makoto Shinkai, and it's amazing. I actually haven't seen it since 2017. I was lucky enough to see it in theaters for the North American release,
which is mind-boggling to me, because then when I saw this movie, it was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And then you telling me that you saw this in theaters, I had a reaction similar to when I told you that I saw Hamilton with the original cast before it got big, and I didn't even know what I was seeing. So it's like, those are like the two equal and, again, more thermodynamics. Who knew we were going to get into this? Equal and opposite reactions here. But so that's sort of like what we had going on there. So yes, we're going to be talking about Your Name, and that is something that I do want to get into. Like, you first saw it in theaters, correct? And that was the only time you saw it up until like this week.
Yeah, so I was a fan of Shinkai for a while. When he really wasn't that popular, his most popular film was 5 centimeters per second.
Love it and hate it.
And I had seen that when I was like, oh my goodness, I must have been like 16, 15 or 16. And that blew me away, and I was like, whoa, I'm like, this dude's a really good director, great art. And I had saw that one, and I saw Garden of Words as well, which is another great film by him. And he has all these other kind of shorter ones that he made by himself, actually, but he wasn't really that popular. And then I saw he was coming out with a new film called Your Name, and I was like, oh, wow. I'm like, this is awesome. I'm like, I love how this guy's getting a big release for his movie. I'm like, I got to go support it. I was really amazed, too. I'm like, wow, they're going to do, like, an American release? And then I started hearing about how well it was doing in Japan, and I was like, holy crap. And it's one of those moments, like, this is the equivalent to me when, like, I follow a small band, and they blow up.
Yeah.
It's that same thing where I'm like, I was there first. I knew him when he was small.
It was me. I was there. I supported him. It was me.
Like,
it was me. You hear?
It's really cool to be able to like be a part of that. And so when I saw it was being released in theaters, I'm like, oh, I have to go. And I don't have many friends that watch anime, or at least back then I didn't.
Right, back then.
I had a couple of friends that would watch like Naruto and Bleach and stuff, but they wouldn't be interested in going to something like this. So I was like, screw it.
Right, if it's not one of the big 3, it ain't for me.
Exactly.
I just coined that term right now.
It's perfect. We gotta like merchandise that. Put that on T-shirts.
T-shirts coming out. I have a bunch of white T-shirts in my dresser drawer behind me. I'll just get a Sharpie. I'll Kanye it up, man. That's the only Kanye reference I'll ever make again.
Joe and Joe merch coming summer of 2021.
Let's push that. Let's give it another year. Like, we'll take another year break at some point. Maybe like summer of 2022, where you'll get some nice white tees with some black Sharpie on it.
Oh my goodness. I think we can make it happen. But anyway, I digress. With Your Name, I wanted to go see it, so I decided to go see it by myself. And I'd seen movies by myself plenty of times, so it was no big deal. I drove over, I went and saw it in like a normal size, like AMC theater. And I got my ticket, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm like, I wonder how many people are going to be in the theater. I sent Joe yesterday a photo of the movie poster that they actually had outside of the theater.
Yes, you did.
And I
Can confirm.
It was beautiful, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm like, this is really cool being able to see this in theaters. And I got in the theater, and there was maybe 5 other people. That was
Oh my god.
I was in the theater with 5 other people, and let me tell you, these other people were weebs. It was hilarious because they were doing all they were doing all of like the previews and stuff, and the one girl in the theater yelled, "Speed it up! Attack on Titan's on later tonight."
That's incredible. She's
I
like,
was
come
like-
on, I gotta get through this to get to that, man. I can't do both. All right, you gotta hurry it up.
And it was just really funny. I'm like, okay, I'm with my people, and I watched it, and I was blown away. And I thought it was absolutely amazing. I was like, okay, I'm like, it makes sense why it's doing so well in Japan. And you didn't see it till about a year later, maybe close to a year, the fall
Something
of
like that?
2017. I think.
Yeah.
Fall 2017.
Yes,
is
that's when it
you
was.
saw
I'm trying to remember my own life.
What was your experience like, Joe?
Yeah, so mine was probably as different as it could be to yours because I had no idea who Shinkai was. As far as like I was concerned, the only like anime movies I had ever really seen were all Studio Ghibli things. You know, like Spirited Away, Castle in the Sky, Howl's Moving Castle, Castle of Cagliostro. I haven't seen that one. I just like the Rule of Threes with the castle in the title. It's on my
likes
list.
his castles.
Miyazaki do be liking them castles though. But so yeah, all I had really known were Studio Ghibli films, and you know I watched some anime here and there. I was a fan of the big three. So One Piece, I still haven't seen it, but I'll get to it one day. I promise. Maybe when like some other world-ending event happens, and then I'll be like, all right, now I've got time to binge this. So yeah, big three, Dragon Ball, One Punch Man. There are other ones in there that aren't just generic action shonen stuff, but I don't want to get into it right now. We're not talking about those. So it was the fall of 2017 because it was our freshman year in college. We were in the honeymoon phase. We had just met and we were becoming fast friends. We were married a year later.
We were leaving love notes to each other.
Leaving love notes to each other on paper towels and Sharpie.
That was the first love note was when you went to go see it.
It
Oh
was.
my God.
Oh, I didn't even remember that. That's so true. Yeah.
You saw your watch. Oh, it's hitting me. It's hitting me.
Yeah. So it was. Oh, those snaps probably sound great on this mic. Yeah. So I left you the note in our dorm room, just saying, "Hey, I'm going off to one of our friends' places for the night." It was me and a group of other friends, and you were, I don't know, screwing around and being a responsible student or some crap.
Studying
So I
biology.
left you. Yeah, exactly. Moron. Why would you miss out on social time for academic time? So I went to this friend's house. It was a great time. And I remember one of our other friends, everyone was kind of just like, we should watch a movie. And one of our other friends suggested the film Your Name. And I was just kind of like, yeah, sure. Like they were like, it's an anime thing. I'm like, I really don't care. I'm just, it's like a group. When you get over a group of like 3 friends and you decide to like watch a movie, at that point, it's not really like, you don't really care about the movie because for the most part, you're probably just going to like make fun of it or something or not really pay attention and you're just going to have like in-jokes and stuff. So they're like, Your Name, and no one really said anything about it. Like, yeah, sure, why not? And so we're all sitting there watching it, and I remember when I first started watching it, and I was just sort of like, this is cool. And then I saw the animation of the smartphone screens. And
boy.
this will be a running theme throughout this part of the podcast because many, if not all of Shinkai's films have in some way or another pushed the boundary of animation, I would say. Is that fair to say, Joe?
I would agree because he does 3D animation. Like he makes 3D animation look like hand drawn animation, and I think that's where you kind of hit the sweet spot, because a lot of times when people try and do 3D animation, it doesn't look good. It looks clunky, and that's why everybody loves like I don't like how people compare him to Miyazaki, but the reason people love Studio Ghibli films, you can tell that shit's hand drawn. Like that's beautiful. They do use some computer elements, but when when Shinkai's able to use computer elements fully and create something that looks like watercolor and hand drawn, like that's mind blowing.
Yeah, it's incredible. And that was like, that's within the first, I think it's when you first get into Taki's life, which I'll get into story structure in a second. But like, you see the phone of his like vibrating because it's the alarm going off in the morning, and I just look at that phone and I was like, what, did they composite a real iPhone into this animated movie? And then like, you know, you look at it again, you're like, oh, and then the movie continues to go on, and I'm sitting there watching with all these, you know, all our friends, and I was like, I was blown. Like, I just kept watching, and I was like, this is a very well made movie, and I just kept watching it, and like when like twists and turns start to happen and more of the story unravels, and I was just like, oh my good god. And it finally, when it ended, I was just sitting there, and I think I turned to the friend who suggested it, and I was just like, that was incredible. Like, I loved that movie. That was so good. And unlike you, I have seen it I think twice after my initial viewing of it, through completely legal means. US government.
That was such clean audio.
Thank you. My mouth is right on the pop filter. I'm sure all the viewers, put your headphones on for just that segment. We probably won't timestamp it. We're a little lazy. I'll timestamp it as the other account. But I was like, oh my god, this is incredible. So, for all of you out there who are just like, well, what is it? Because I don't want to watch it, and I'll just listen to you guys talk about it. This is also the spoiler section.
Spoilers. I was about to yell it.
Yeah, just screaming into the heavens. Spoilers! My brain just did a little bit of a fart. I yelled spoilers, and then everything in my head went out of my head with me shouting spoilers. The film. Recap of the film. Okay, so Your Name is a Freaky Friday story, which I hate saying. Yeah, it's because it's significantly better in just about every way. And I love the way they do it. So it's between these two characters. It's the girl, Mitsuha, and the boy, Taki. Taki lives in Tokyo, very fast-paced sort of lifestyle in the city. And then Mitsuha lives in...
countryside.
What's the name? Korakora Town? Is the name of the...
No.
What's it?
It started with an I. It was like Itamori.
Itamori, that's what it was. Itamori is the name of the town. Thank you.
The bald head like remembers.
Yeah. I just have to say, like, you touching your head and it's all bald, and it's like big brain plays right here. But yeah, so Mitsuha is from Itamori. It's like a nice country town, and Taki, Tokyo. And so the film starts off, and I appreciate this because you won't understand this, or at least you might understand it like once you finish the film, but you really pick up on a bunch of little stuff like after subsequent rewatches. But the film starts, and you think you're looking at Mitsuha, but you soon realize something is off. And I love the fact that they start the film with you looking at Mitsuha, but the body swapping has already occurred. So it's Taki, the boy, in Mitsuha's body. And you're just sort of like, what is happening? Because already the film starts you off in a state of you're confused and you want to know what's going on. And it just helps establish the world that you're already in. It's like, all right, there's nothing to like ease you into it, really. It's just sort of like, bang, we're in it. And I love it as well as like a storytelling kind of method, because in the way that director's name,
Shinkai.
Shinkai, thank you. And the way that Shinkai like implores this to tell his story, it's wonderful because it gives you a chance to go through the life of one of the characters in a not normal way, and so you get to see the lives of these characters, and like it establishes what like a standard day might look like for them in a very not standard way. Because normally, like if you think of like Shaun of the Dead, like Shaun goes throughout his day, it's very mundane, and then he goes to bed and he wakes up, and then everything's changed because he goes through all the motions now, and it's a zombie apocalypse. But in this, it's just sort of like you don't need that first 10-15 minutes of establishing what the normal day is, because all the characters that body swap, the two body swappies, the two body swaps.
I think that's proper terminology.
Yeah, body swappies. Well, I'm going to stick with that. The two body swappies, all the characters they interact with when they're swapped, it's like you're acting different, and it's kind of like you're not normally this brash, you're not normally this like kind or whatever. It's like
feminine or whatever.
Feminine, exactly. When Taki has his feminine side when dealing with what's her name, the waitress, Miss Okudera.
Joe,
she is
one of the notes on my page. One of the first notes is Miss Okudera is a babe.
Miss Okudera is she best girl? I need
of the film, yes.
Of the film,
yes.
Yeah, because then she comes along for the journey afterward, like after Taki and her like the break split. We're bouncing all around the plot of the movie. So again, general premise is that it's body swapping and that sort of thing. And so these two characters sort of start to get they form a relationship with each other because they're leaving notes for each other, ground rules of what to do and not do when you're in that person's number one body and number two life, and like the relationships that they want to preserve and things they don't want to have happen. And it's incredibly cute because for the first I'd say third of the film, you have this cute, it's a unique way of building this sort of relationship between two different characters, and it's really cool. And then a turn happens.
What a plot twist. I completely forgot about the plot twist watching it the second time through. I'm like, man, like I've only seen it that one time when I saw it in theaters. I'm like, I wonder what it's going to be like watching it again like 4 years later. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's body swapping. Like I understand the plot. And then the twist happened and I was like, oh my God, I forgot about that. That's kind of big.
I forgot. Yeah, I forgot. It's not just body swapping. Then about a third of the way, actually, is it a third? It's probably halfway through the film. But like the film was broken up into three sections. I'd say. Where the first half is the body swapping, second half is the journey of Taki, and then the last half is the
mission.
Saving. The mission. Let's call it the mission for Itamori Town. That's a cool title. That's going on a t-shirt too in a year's time. 2022, baby. But so after a third of the movie, the body swapping stops, and it stops after the meteor or the comet, whatever the hell the comet's name is. It's not important what the comet's name is. There's a comet that's falling in the film, and instead of just passing by Earth like any normal comet would or burning up in the atmosphere, it breaks apart and a massive chunk falls on Itamori Town. Taki does not know this, nor does he know until halfway through the film, where he's already begun his journey because he's not swapping with Mitsuha anymore, and he wants to meet up with her again because he's like, they form this wonderful relationship, and he wants to stay connected with her, and so he tries to go and find her. And of course, one of his friends from established earlier on in the film comes with him, along as Miss Okudara, best girl of the film. They travel along with him, and they try to find Itamori Town. Problem is, he doesn't remember what it's called, because every time they swap, it's like a dream, and so all the information in his brain just kind of gets like, uh-oh, it's fading away. And so it's halfway into this journey for Itamori Town that he finds out Itamori Town was destroyed by a comet 3 years ago. So I'm assuming that's the other twist that you're referring to, Joe, is that it's not only body swapping.
Time travel.
And time travel, baby. We got 2 in there. That's your 2-for-1 special right there. So that was something that just completely screwed with my head when I first watched the film. I was like, oh my god. And watching it again and again, and like every time you pick up on like little things where you're just sort of like, oh, okay, and like you're just gaining little bits of knowledge that he kind of just throws the director and all the animators and everything like that just kind of throw out there, and it's just like, oh my god, this is just incredible to like see all the seeds that are kind of there, and like you don't think about it at all because it's like you don't think of time travel when you think of body swapping, but this one has both, and it works incredibly well.
Yeah, definitely. It was a very original story, and that was one of the things that really sold me because I was like, oh, general body swapping, whatever. I'm like, this sounds pretty cool, but then the whole the time split is really cool. The time traveling, the fact that out of nowhere they lose connection and the swaps stop happening. The fact that some of the memories start leaving their mind, even like the notes that they left in each other's phones start disappearing. And
Which
all this
breaks my heart every time I see it. I'm just looking at it like, no, stay.
Yeah, that's a rough one watching that scene, and it's like it's just super super unique. And the one of my favorite scenes is when they're on it's not a mountain, but where the crater is, where they call it the netherworld, and they're talking to each other. But it's like, because it's like they talk about the idea of twilight,
and the golden hour or magic hour as they refer to it.
So many cool themes, and like during that time you're able to like communicate with like a separate world or the past, and like they just visually made it look really really cool. And I wanted to say also, Joe, the little like shrine in the netherworld where it's like that little island in the crater, that reminds me of a lot of like the little island in Princess Mononoke where the forest spirit is. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. It's like where they bring what's the main character's name?
I know.
Because San is the wolf girl, and then Ashitaka. That's where they bring. Yeah, there you go. That's where they bring Prince Ashitaka after he's been shot, and the Forest Spirit comes and heals his bullet wound, and he's just kind of standing in the middle there. Yeah, it does kind of remind me of that. So, yeah, there's probably something there about something in like Japanese history or religion or something like that we're just too naive to realize. But that is a cool like parallel to see there. But yeah, so going on to I don't know, just quickly to finish the recap of the story for anyone who cares. It's so you start with body swapping, then body swapping stops because the comet falls on Mitsuha's town, but Taki doesn't know that until halfway through when he journeys to try and find Itamori. Then after he figures that out, he's still like, okay, there's got to be a way I can reconnect with her though. So he goes over to that crater that we were just talking about where that shrine was, and through means that he drinks some of the sake that she creates, and it's like a connection that they can form between, like an actual physical connection that can form between them. And then he goes on some insane acid trip and all of a sudden wakes back up in Mitsuha's body, and he's like, yes, it worked. Now the mission begins. And he is a man in a woman's body who has a cause. And by golly, he/she is going to fight for that cause.
And blow shit up.
And blow shit up. Very true. I love that, where he's just like, I'll get to that in a second. So they're trying to Itaki in Mitsuha's body, who knows the town is going to get destroyed by this comet, goes to Mitsuha's two best friends and is just like, yo, this is what's going to happen. You got to believe me. We got to save everyone right now. And they're like, bet, we're your best friends. We got your back. We totally believe this, which I'm like, those guys are just the most loyal friends of all time. That's incredible.
For real.
And so they Mitsuha and the guy motorbike up to the power plant and blow it up.
Because that's the logical thing you do.
It's the only logical way you can evacuate people, because obviously they're not going to listen to a couple of, what are they, like 14 or 15 or something like that? They're not very old. They're high school students. And so they're like, we have to get everyone to listen to us to evacuate the area. And even when they blow up the power plant, everyone's just sort of like, we're not going to evacuate. So it's like, it's a good thing you escalated, because if you had to start off normally and then try escalation and that didn't work, everyone would still be dead. But so they blow up the power station, everything goes dark, emergency radio goes on, and it's the other friend who's being like, hey, everyone needs to evacuate to the school right now. And then they stop her, and they're like, oh, and you're just like, oh my god. And stuff like that is going on. Meanwhile, like, that's all happening in the town. Meanwhile, Mitsuha has since run off back to the crater, and this is Taki in Mitsuha's body, by the way, run back to the crater to find Mitsuha in Taki's body, and in probably my favorite scene of the film, they finally meet. And you realize, like, when you're watching this, you're like, oh my god, throughout all of this, even though they've been body swapping, like, they know what each other look like, because obviously they look in mirrors and they see what each other are like. It's the first time they have been together and interacted. And I love the moment where they, like, when they meet each other finally, they swap back to their original body. So Taki is in Taki's body, Mitsuha is in Mitsuha's body. I don't have to keep saying who's in whose body now, thank God. And Mitsuha kind of like walks up to him and puts her hands on his chest, and she's like, oh my god, it's you. And you're just like, gah, finally. And there's no, like, you know, like, big kiss, like, Hollywood sort of thing in there, which is nice because that wouldn't fit there at all. But they're just sort of like, okay, we don't have much time. Like, it's probably because of golden hour or whatever the heck is going on right now. But Taki's like, all right, I've started the ball rolling to save your town. Now it's up to you. And Mitsuha's like, yeah, okay. And then Taki's like, oh, and one more thing. We should write each other's names on our palms that we don't forget, because they keep forgetting who each other are and all that sort of stuff. And then Taki writes on her palm, and then, you know, the music is swelling and everything like that, and Mitsuha goes, and then the camera's close up on Taki's palm, and Mitsuha draws a line, and then disappear. Magic. Houdini. Houdini. Music cuts out, and the pen drops to the ground with a single line drawn on his palm. And I've never been stabbed in the gut before. But I equate it to the feeling that this scene gave me. Because, good God, does that just punch you in the gut, slap you around, and call you Sally when your name really is not Sally? It is... like, holy Christ.
Yeah, I remember I got choked up. I was like, no. I was like, you gotta be fucking with me. I'm looking around at, like, other people in the theater. I'm like, did this just happen? I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, it hits you like a truck, or like being stabbed in the gut, or being slapped around and called Sally when your name really isn't Sally. Pick any of them. It's so impactful that you're just like, oh my God, they're gone. And Taki is he picks up the pen and he's like, oh, I'm gonna write down her name so I can remember it. And he goes to write it down, and he's repeating in his head, and he goes to write it down, and then he just pauses and he's like, what's your name? And I've never, like, the most emotional I think I've ever gotten in a movie is Endgame, when I thought my blood pressure was gonna explode to the top of my dome. But that's the closest I think I've ever come to throwing something at a TV screen. I would have taken off my shoe and been like, no, remember her name. I will shout it into the ether until you remember her goddamn name. And it's just, it's so good, because they make you care so much about these people, and it's just so good. Like, I just keep saying it's so good, but it's so good. And then, like, this is something that I've written down, Joe, because the stuff that follows it up now with Mitsuha's back in her time, and she's running to go confront her father. There's a subplot about Mitsuha not really getting along with her father. It's not that important. Nobody cares. But and her father's also the mayor of the town, which is why she needs to go talk to him to, like, to evacuate everyone.
Authority.
Yeah, exactly, authority. That's the plot, not the story, sort of a thing. But so she's running to go confront her father because she's like, I need to get him to evacuate everyone. And do you remember when she trips?
Yes.
Like, she eats shit. It's
freaking flow.
like, if you hadn't been watching for like the past like hour and 20 minutes or however long you've been watching the movie at that point, it's so almost comical. Like how intense she falls. Because I mean, you are running downhill, but oh my god, does she get air on some of those like rolls as she's going down? It's so fun. Oh my god. So she's running, she then eats shit, and you're just like, oh my god, this girl is wrecked. And she's kind of sitting there, and she's thinking, and the entire time she's doing the same thing that Taki was doing, where he's trying to remember her name, and he's repeating it in his head, and then all of a sudden he can't remember it. Mitsuha's doing the same thing. She's like, Taki, I gotta remember. His name is Taki. And then she has this whole falling down 37 flights of stairs. And she's lying there on the road, and she opens up her palm because she's like, I can't remember your name anymore. And she's like, wait. And then she opens up the palm, and instead of his name being written on there, all that's written on her palm is I love you. And
the waterworks just start coming.
Dude, the tear ducts just start going in overtime. They're like, yo, is it holiday pay time, baby? Because we're ready to go. Yeah, and it's so good. Because it's like, no, they don't say I love you. It's just written there. And it's like, that is more important than your name. It's just the fact, like, it doesn't matter what your name is right now. What matters is the fact that you and I care for each other, and we know that, and this is what's going to power me through to the end. And she picks herself up, and she books it to her old man, and she gets in there, and he's just like, what have you been doing? You've been blowing stuff up. You've been, working the emergency cases and telling everyone to go over. And she just walks over to him, and she's just like, I thought that was the scene where she like grabbed his tie and pulled him in, but that's not. That's when Taki's in Mitsuha's body. Yeah. But so you don't even see what happens. You just see she like runs in, and father yells at her, and she's like panting, and then her eyes just go like the most her eyes just the most infused with confidence I've ever seen an animated character get, and she just walks to camera like into the like where you'd be filming or whatever, and it just cuts to. Does it cut to the destruction next?
No,
I think it does.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it cuts to. Oh yeah. No, it does cut to the destruction, and you see the meteor split off and land, and then it takes a second. But that destruction was actually really good, like amazing. That's one of the other. Just so everyone knows, we came prepared. We wrote notes. Okay, we don't take notes in class, but we take notes for the podcast.
Exactly. We got our priorities in line, baby. But that's one of the things that I have here, along with dropping the pen equals feeling like being stabbed. Mitsuha eating shit before saying I love you in the palm. It's so egregiously violent the way she falls. And then I have, right under that, silence before the meteor's impact is very ... and then impactful in all capitalization. Because it is, like, this is like the moment, this is like the, probably one of the most critical moments, for the movie, because like you've been seeing, it's been in all the promotional material, this beautiful comet passing through the sky. It's been prevalent in news reports that have been going on in the movie. It's prevalent as one of the things, or one of the reoccurring motifs that just keeps popping up in the film. And so this is finally the big payoff where you actually see the impact of this comet striking the town. And you're just following the comet. You start up in like the stratosphere or wherever you are, real high up in the sky, and it goes through a layer of cloud, and you're just watching this beautifully animated sky, and this beautifully animated, like, this comet has sparkles coming off it. It's looking fabulous. It's like, this is the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. And then the camera finally rests on the town, just like one of the houses on the town, and you see it before you hear it. Again, the silence of the impact. The comet hits, no sound, and you just the house immediately decimated, and then a shockwave emerges, and then the sound of the impact hits you, and the town is decimated. And you're like, oh my god, this is insane. You just went from this serene beauty of like the cosmos and like it panning all the way down to like this beautiful little town, and then destruction. The dichotomy is so immense that you're just like, I don't even know what to think right now.
Did you watch this on a TV?
Yeah, all the times that I've watched it was on a TV.
Yeah, so I actually watched this on my laptop, and I gotta say, even for being on an 8-year-old laptop, it looked so clean. And the other thing I wanted to ask real quickly, did you watch the dub or the sub?
Ah, yes.
This is a big question.
This is a big question. So here's the thing. I have watched this film 3 times previous to this. All 3 previous times I watched the sub. So I had to read the subtitles and watch the movie at the same time. This time, I watched the dub, the English dub of the film. And I have 2 reasonings for that. One, I just wanted to see what the English dub was like because I had never heard it before, so I wanted to see what it was like. And 2, I hate subtitles. I vehemently hate subtitles. And it's not because, I mean, obviously I don't hate anime or like foreign films and things like that because I love this film. I love watching anime, and a lot of that I watch subtitled. But I hate subtitles just simply because a director and a cinematographer, filmed this and they blocked everything and animators worked on this. So it's like I want to watch and appreciate the art. And when I have to look down and read, and I'm not the fastest reader, so if it's like 2 full lines of text or whatever, and you gotta read all of it, and it's not that quick of a shot, or it's a quick shot, it's only like 2 seconds or something like that. It's like I don't get to really look up and take in the information that's in the shot. So it's like I just like being able to look at the screen and not have to split my attention between reading the subtitles and actually viewing whatever's in frame at the moment. But what about you? What do you do with the with this? Let me just ramble a little bit longer.
How far can you go? Auction off a car. Come on, how much? How much is it going for?
I can't speak that fast. How did you watch it?
So when I saw it in theaters, it was sub. And I actually, for the most part, I prefer sub over dub. I'm not one of those people that are completely like, no dub bad. Like, if the dub's good, I'm gonna listen to it. Like, it really doesn't matter to me. But I completely forgot that there was an option for this. So when I rented it last night, I was like, oh, okay, cool. And they start talking. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, I got the dub. And I was like, whoa.
It's in English.
I'm like, it's in English. I'm like, I've never seen it this way before. I'm like, did I mess up? I'm like, which one is Joe watching it in? I'm like, trying to freak out. I'm like, what? Not a big deal.
No.
And I gotta say, I really liked the dub. I thought they did a good job with it. I thought all the voice actors were good.
Yeah, I like all of it. Mitsuha's voice actor to me is just a little bit, like a little too high pitched almost. But that it comes and goes with different things that she says, so it really doesn't matter that much. I will say though, because again I watched it 3 previous times subbed, so I was very used to them saying everything in Japanese, and listening to them speak in English through me. The first 10 minutes I was really thrown off. I was
it's weird.
What the heck is going? And the first voice you hear is Mitsuha, so maybe that's why I'm also a little bit off on it, because I'm like, it just started weird for me. But after the first 10 minutes where everyone kind of settles in and you get used to the fact that it's in English or whatever, but yeah, so sub or dub, watch in whatever way you want to, it really doesn't matter. I will say though, the songs that actually have vocals in them,
Oof.
I much prefer personally the Japanese versions, because it just sounds like it flows way better listening to whoever. Do you remember who the artist was that Radcamp?
Yes.
Yeah,
Radcamp. Close. Wimps. Rad
Wimps. There it is. I knew it had rad in it somewhere. Yeah, so it's the music by Rad Wimps. I think the Japanese version just sounds better and it flows better, because I don't know if they speak English or not, but even so, trying to fit English words into, you know, the cadence and the rhythm of the song that was written for, I assume, Japanese,
they do
doesn't work
both.
as well.
They
do
they
both.
can sing in English and Japanese. Like they perform the English versions as well. Um,
Yeah,
and
which
yeah,
thank God, because that would be weird hearing another singer doing it in English, just being like, wait a minute, what's going on here?
oh my god.
Yeah, but all right, so that is the recap of it, and like some of our favorite instances from it in like the pen dropping and the impact of the meteor and all that stuff. Now I do want to know, what is your favorite moment from the film, Joe?
Favorite moment. Oh my goodness. I mean, I think for me, probably when they're on top of the crater, like the little like ridge,
Mm-hmm.
where the netherworld is, where the shrine is. I think that scene's amazing with the whole dropping of the pen and everything. But I think also when he finally realizes where he got the bracelet from, the rope,
Oh, that's
um,
right. We never even went into that.
like like that blew me away. And I think just the overall ending, because like that ending of the film of just you don't really know what happened. It just ends up being that, you know, you see the meteor hit what we were talking about, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
did it work? Like, were they able to evacuate? And then it's
Right.
another time jump, a time jump. What was it? 5 years,
5 years into the future. Yeah, we completely
and they're all
skipped over the
grad
ending.
they're all graduated, and you're like, okay, what happened? And you realize that, you know, Taki doesn't know why he was interested in the first place with Itamori. He's like, oh yeah, I just was really interested in this weird, crazy disaster that happened. He goes, but I don't know why I was interested.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about, you know, how he feels like he's always missing something, or like he can't remember something. And then you also learn that the town was saved, and that
Yes.
it's really weird that like apparently there's a bunch of conspiracies behind of like, oh, that's kind of weird that all the town was having a practice fire drill,
Or something.
right right when it went, like right when the meteor striked. And also, why was there an explosion? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I love how they mention it. They're like, there's a
Why?
weird explosion that happened that nobody talks about. Like, what the heck?
If you don't talk about it, I never will. Yeah, okay, totally. No, just never talk about the explosion. Yeah, no problem. Got it, got it, got it. They're just
But
like,
it's
no
not
one
even
talks about it.
important. And
No.
and that's all you need to know what happened. And once you realize, you're like, oh crap, that means Mitsuha's alive. And
Mm-hmm.
the final scene where they finally actually meet,
Right.
um, and they ask like, "Oh, what's your name?" Oh my goodness!
Mm-hmm.
And then the
It's so
music just
good.
kicks in, and oh, just get you so hyped.
Radwimps just comes in, just, we're gonna hit you with all of our musical talent, and you're just like, oh yes. And that's the like, they meet on that staircase, and it's a thing because they passed in this like after Itamori is saved, or like after, let's say after the meteor impact, because you don't see the saving of Itamori, you see the meteor impact, and then it cuts to 5 years later, and
Yeah.
you see Taki going throughout his day, and then you see he keeps passing this woman, and like the woman has the red ribbon in her hair, which the red ribbon is like the red thread of fate that kind of like ties them together, and to coincide with like the time travel stuff, like Mitsuha went to go visit Taki in her present, which Taki didn't know her at the time because he wouldn't start body swapping with her until 3 years later. It's weird to hear someone explaining. You have to watch the movie to really understand. But just understand that there's like this red thread that Taki had in the beginning of the movie, and just sort of like it's never really called attention to upon, and then you find out where it came from, and then he gives it back to her when they have their first meeting on the ridge next to the netherworld. And so he keeps passing this woman. This is after the 5 year time skip, and you know, it's very obvious. It's like you're meant to pay attention to this woman because we linger on her for a minute. You don't see her face; you just kind of see her back for a little bit. And he passes the same woman, like I think 2 or 3 times in
Yeah.
different locations. and you just sort of like, no, please notice each other. Come on, just turn around at the same time, please, for the love of God. And then the final part is when they notice each other on a train, and like they're two different trains, and they're each like crammed up against a window, and they start passing each other, and they see each other, and they're like, "You!" It's like the Spider-Man meme with like the pointing fingers at each other, but it's like them too, and they're just like, "Whoa!" And so then it's a quick montage of them trying to find each other, and this is the part that I almost started punching the TV before the final lines in the movie, because they see each other.
Say anything.
Yeah, exactly. Mitsuha standing on top of this stairwell, Taki's at the bottom. They look at each other, and then they look back down, and they just were like, I'm just gonna go about my day like we have like the last couple times that we passed each other. And I was like, no, and they walk past each other, and you think it might end that way. At least I did, and I was like, no! And then Taki finally works up the courage, thank God, and he turns around and he's like, excuse me, it might sound a little weird, but have I seen you before? And then Mitsuha, just tears streaming down her face, she's like, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. And then he's like, can I ask what's your name? And final line of the movie is your name, pans up to the sky, Rad Wimps kicks in, title card appears, and then credits. And it's just this beautiful, emotional journey, wonderful animation, and absolutely banging music.
There's
no film.
Dull moments. Like, that was the one thing I really liked about it. There was no time where I wasn't interested. Like, it kept the pace up really well. There was really intense moments, really like calm moments, but like the whole time I like was never bored. I wasn't like checking my phone or anything. Like, I was just engaged the whole entire time. And like even another thing that I noticed while watching it is just how many motifs Shinkai loves to carry over. Like, he loves trains, he loves snow, he loves rain.
Yes.
He loves having people pass by each other, even in 5 centimeters per second, when like at the very end of that movie, the two people pass by each other, and then a train goes by, and the guy turns around, and then when the train's gone, the girl on the other side disappeared. And like that's very, very similar to like this, except that the person's there and they actually say something, and it's like I don't know how you would describe that. Like, I guess just two people passing each other.
Right.
All of these are very much like, oh, that's a Shinkai thing.
Yes. Yeah, there's definitely like Shinkai-isms that you can find throughout a lot of his movies. Especially, like, I think, like, I've seen Garden of Words, I've seen 5 centimeters per second, and I've seen Your Name, and between those, there's definitely motifs and stuff that he carries over and ideas that he really likes playing with and he feels comfortable in. And then I think the closest relation, though, is between Your Name and his latest film, Weathering with You. Just on like a surface level and like a little bit deeper, there are some things that are like very much similar that you can find between the two. And like Weathering with You, I when I saw it, I was very much of the mindset of like, this is like, let me like plug my nose and be like a nasally like I don't know, like movie reviewer. This is very much like just a worse Your Name. You know, I was kind of like thinking like that. I was just kind of like, yes, whatever. It has since become more meaningful to me, but that is because Weathering with You was the last film that I ever saw in theaters before 2020 kicked it into high gear. So I have my book of tickets, and much how you have your Name ticket, I have my my Weathering with You ticket stuck up in there. And it was also the last time that I was with a few of our friends, which was quite sad because, you know, I had college and everyone lives all over the place. But so like that Weathering with You has sort of become its own beast to me, and it's got like its own baggage. But
and
it's
in the moment,
good.
You probably don't realize how much like, oh, it's just going to see a movie, and it's like actually probably going to be like a huge nostalgic point the next time you watch it.
Yeah, no, I didn't realize 2020 was going to go down the fucking drain, Joe.
It didn't go down the drain. It blew up the drain. It became a bigger drain.
It was the comet. And it just impact. The comet was everything that was happening in 2020. Itamori was 2020, and the impact came and decimated it. That's what happened. That's full bringing it full circle, baby. Yeah. So that's like Weathering with You is like meaningful to me in that sense, and Shinkai's film. They're all good though. Like they look incredible. The stories are all, if not great, very good. They're all just really good movies, which is what more can you ask for? Great animation, great stories. Watch a Shinkai film. That's my recommendation.
Exactly. There you can't go wrong. And I think we should, maybe at a later episode, for one of the movies that we picked, we should do a Shinkai film that neither of us have seen.
Ooh.
We should definitely do that. I think that would be cool to talk about, because after watching this last night, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm like, I want to watch 5 centimeters per second. I want to watch Weathering with You. I want to rewatch them all again. But Joe, I think I picked my movie that I would like to watch for next week.
Ooh, is this gonna be a tease for next week's episode?
Can I? Is it okay if I say what I would like to do?
Let me check with the Council of Joes. Hey, is it okay if he says the thing? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they say it's cool.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, I would like to watch The Iron Giant.
Ooh, that's a good. The other Joes in the back room.
They applaud.
They applaud. Yeah. Can you hear them? Can you hear the?
Can you hear the roar?
Yeah, Iron Giant. Yeah, they love it. Oh, that's very nice. Okay, I'm excited. I am. Ooh, okay.
I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to I want to tell Joe like which one I want to do it in the actual conversation. I'm like, I really want to watch The Iron Giant. I'm like, I'm loving animation right now. I didn't want to do another anime movie. I'm like, I know I'm a weeb, but sometimes I gotta resist. And
I'm not 100% weeb. Okay, there's other aspects like comic books.
You can't go full weeb. Like you gotta be a little controlled. So I was like, okay.
You can't go full weeb on the first episode back. That's the rule. But episode 2, all bets are off.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. You know the rules.
Yeah. All right. So, with that revelation and tease for what's going to be going on with next week's movie, I think that's a perfect place to end this week's movie discussion. Unless you have anything else to add to that.
Only thing I would add is that I would give it a 9.5 out of 10. What about you?
Ooh. We're rating these. Hang on, give me a sec.
Yes, we're doing the rating.
I gotta do some brain beep bops. I gotta beep bop boop in my brain.
Would you like me to do the calculus?
Yeah, you do the calculus because I don't know anything about calculus.
So my calculations.
It sounded like the sack of potatoes, and you're just smacking it repeatedly on the table.
Why would I have a sack of potatoes?
I don't know, but it was like a tiny little sack of potatoes, and you just. Okay. Yeah, I think I'd give it probably. I'd go like a 9. I'd say. Yeah, I don't know about a 9. I wouldn't go as high as a 9.5, but I definitely say a strong 9. It's a very, very, very good. Okay. Transitions. Do we need them? No. So, Dark Multiverse.
Comic books.
Everyone knows what it is. We don't have to explain it. Let's just jump into it. Or maybe we should explain it like real briefly. So for
what a 180. 180 in like 2 seconds.
I was like, people know the multiverse. People should know what the Dark Multiverse is. And then I was just like, well, no, because the Dark Multiverse is steeped in a lot of continuity. It's based on a big comic book event. But we already did whatever. So I'm like, all right, just real briefly, Dark Multiverse. It's back in 2017. Scott Snyder wrote something called Dark Knight's Metal. big event. It's like a crisis, but it's not really a crisis, whatever. And so they took a map of the multiverse in the comic book, and they're like, yeah, this is the multiverse you know. And they're like, but did you know there's an edgelord version of this? And they flipped the map upside down to the back of it, and they were like, boom, baby, it's the dark multiverse now. And it was like there was nothing on the back of the map. It was just black. And they're like, yeah, that's to represent the darkness, the dark multiverse. Ooh. So welcome to the edgelord averse, bitches. All right. So obviously, if you're a long-time listener, we did 3 of the past issues of Dark Multiverse. So like it's Tales from the Dark Multiverse. That's what we're talking about. It is a comic book series that just takes, it like cherry picks these important, iconic big stories from different runs of different characters and stuff like that, and they do like a dark twist on it. So if you're if you know about like Marvel's What If series, where it's like that, except they always end terribly because it's a dark multiverse. Yeah, very fast, very bad, not fast. And we have our favorite reoccurring character. 3, 2, 1. Tempest Fugnut. There we go. It started off very distinct, but we brought it back in the end. Yeah, but so Tempest Fugnut. It's such a great name. Like, it's terrible, but it's like great terrible. It's such a great terrible name.
I completely understand.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. So we talked about the first 3 issues back in the Volume 1 of Cup of Joe. We talked about Nightfall, where we had Batman, but he was made of tiny bats. We have The Death of Superman, where Superman dies twice, and Lois becomes the Eradicator. Lois the Eradicator. She gets real angry. And then we talked about
PMS.
I think it was a little more than that, but I'd be willing to say that was part of it. And then we talk about Blackest Night, which is the story where Sinestro becomes a White Lantern and then royally screws up and everyone dies and he tries to kill himself and then, oh no, it doesn't work because he's a White Lantern, which is life, and then he gets light and dark and Lobo restarts the universe, and that one was weird. Yeah. That one was really weird. And then to fit each run, because the second run, as we said earlier, just finished up. Each run has 5 issues, so we never talked about the latter 2 issues, and I'd say for good reason, because honestly, after Blackest Night, Dark Multiverse series kind of falls off a cliff. They kind of Mitsuha it, you know. They're off to the races, man. You know, Nightfall, pretty good. Like, it was kind of interesting. Death of Superman is great. It's wonderful. Then Blackest Night, you kind of stumble, and then you realize that stumble is really you tripping down a hill and just eating dirt.
Yourself.
Yeah, eating yourself off of a cliff. So after Blackest Night was Infinite Crisis. Now, the difference between the first 3 for me and Infinite Crisis, I have never actually read Infinite Crisis. I only have a knowledge of it just from reading other books and stuff like that. So jumping into this for me was, I guess, incredibly similar to you, where you just sort of I don't have the backstory really of the story, and I'm just sort of jumping into this cold and seeing how it goes. Now, I don't know about you. I did not reread any of the first run in preparation for this, and I remember absolutely nothing from the Infinite Crisis Dark Multiverse book. Do you remember anything about that?
I just remember Blue Beetle being real edgy.
Oh, that's right. He gained all the things of the heroes or whatever. This just goes to show it wasn't a very good book. I still remember, I remember pretty much everything that happens in Nightfall. Batman is ahead. Azrael has been Batman for 30 years. Spawn is the son of Bane, even though Spawn is an Image character, but who cares? It's not the same Spawn, it's just the name Spawn, but it's confusing to people who aren't as in the know as you or I, Joe, obviously, at being the gatekeepers of all comic book knowledge. And then Blackest Night, we still remember Lobo restarts the multiverse or whatever. Infinite Crisis, who cares? It's not very good. And then Judas Contract. Now, I also don't remember anything about the Judas Contract Dark Multiverse book, but I do remember hating the art in it, which makes me think that while Infinite Crisis is nothing and bad forgettable, Judas Contract is bad, like just bad.
Yeah, it was not good at all, and I love Teen Titans, and it broke my heart to read that.
Yeah, it was weird, and not the normal weird of wanting to bang Deathstroke or whatever. Just it was weird, and the art was weird. The faces were drawn terribly. Like it was just bad. So the first run of Dark Multiverse books started off really strong, and then fell off a cliff. I would say the only books worth reading, the first three, and even Blackest Night is sort of like, hey, you could probably take it or leave it sort of thing. Now we go into the second run, which it's been a year, because they would have started coming out the same time that these ones are coming out when we started doing the podcast back in fall of last year. So yeah, it was a whole year between the beginning of the first run and the beginning of the second run. So yeah, the first book of the second run was Batman Hush Dark Multiverse. This book I have read. I do know all about it. You have not, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm. I know basics.
Basics of Hush, yeah. It was fine.
Yeah.
It was just sort of like, I'd probably put it towards like in between. No, I'd probably say it's on par with, I'd say, like the Blackest Night book, where it's just sort of like,
yes,
it's not really that great, but it's not terrible either. Like, it's a fine story. It's got some elements that I personally appreciate, like making Dick Grayson a talent for the Court of Owls, because if anyone has read that, you find out that he was meant to be this assassin for the Court of Owls, which, like, this evil adopted him from Haley Circus or whatever. So seeing a different universe where there wasn't like a Batman to save him from that, it's cool to see that he became a talent. And you're just like, well, that's really cool attention to detail. And the art is kind of cool, but there's not really a standout panel for me. You know, like, remember like Lois when she like, when she first became like Lois the Eradicator, we call her, and it was the black suit with like the bleeding S and the tattered cape of Superman and the mascara that was all over her eyes, and she was still wearing the engagement ring. It's like whoa, that was an awesome splash page sort of a thing. Like, there's nothing in this book that really you're just sort of like, whoa, look at that. It's just sort of like, eh.
Yeah, I completely agree. I read it and I was like, okay, that's fine. I don't want my money back, because when I want my money back, you did a bad job.
Yeah. So starting off on like a kind of like a note, which, you know, is okay, I guess. You know, you'd want something great to come after the last two of the series, where you're just sort of like, this is not good. But then we go into how do I want to do this? I'll do it chronologically because it's funnier to talk about how it came out chronologically. So up next was supposed to be War of the Gods, the Dark Multiverse version of that story. But instead, it got delayed, and then we got Flashpoint. So Dark Multiverse Flashpoint, which is weird because Flashpoint is already like a Darkest Timeline sort of a thing. So it was strange kind of watching that, and it's like the story of that is like Ubard Thawne or Reverse Flash is like comes back to the Flashpoint universe and like kills or replaces Barry. I really don't. It was kind of unclear what he did. Like, do you remember?
Yeah,
I feel like
he just kind of like, he's like, instead of normal Flashpoint where Barry gets his powers back, instead it like pulled the Anti-Flash.
Reverse.
Reverse Flash.
Reverse Flash, yeah.
Reverse Flash into the Flashpoint world. I don't know. That part was a little iffy. I had to like read that page like 3 times to be like, wait, what just happened? And I was like, all right, I'll go with it.
Yeah, so it was a little odd what happened, but then Reverse Flash is all of a sudden in Flashpoint world, and he's just like, oh, cool, I'm going to make this my playground, and he just goes around and he threatens the president, and he's like, yep, this is my country now. I'm going to let Aquaman and Wonder Woman fight or whatever. And then for some reason he gets involved. I don't even remember why he gets involved. He just sort of... Why did he get involved with Wonder Woman and Aquaman again?
I don't know. Like, it was it's a weird book thinking about it now. In the moment,
yeah,
I liked it. Like, I thought it was good. That's like the rating I would give it. Good.
Yeah, the art was also nothing spectacular. It was like both Hush and Flashpoint books were better than Infinite Crisis and Judas Contract. Yeah, so like that was, but it wasn't anything like super standout-ish. It was just sort of like this is like solid art. It's nothing like incredible, but it's solid. I'd say that for both of them. They're solid reads. If you're cherry picking, don't go for them because I think there are 3 total that would be worth it. We'll get into the last one in a little bit, but yeah. So it's just sort of like Flashpoint again, just kind of like hand tossed and whatever. Then War of the Gods, which was supposed to come out before Flashpoint. So when you get to the end, it's like the story continues in Flashpoint. You're like, aha, bitch, already read it. But that's whatever. It doesn't really matter because I'd say by far War of the Gods is the worst in the second run. It's
terrible.
It's terrible and forgettable. I don't know what the hell happened in that book. I read it and I was like, Wonder Woman is like evil, and it's because of magic and Circe or Hecate, I think is Hecate. It was Hecate. But here's the thing, Joe. Remember the Justice League Dark books that I was reading? Mm-hmm. Remember how I said those books were great?
Yes.
Take a goosey gander at who the villain was in those books, or at least in one of the arcs of those books.
Hecate.
Yeah. So I've already come from reading a series where she was done incredibly well, and seeing this where she's used terribly, and just the story in itself is honestly pretty, if not like terrible, forgettable, and the art is also not good. Like, I think this is the weakest one for art by far.
Oh my god, yeah. The cover is the worst thing ever.
The cover is just generic nothingness. It looks like a God of War, like PS1 cover almost, where it's just sort of like, this is, I don't know, it's like outdated and it's not good. It's not like throwing it back to like a different time sort of thing. It's not like trying to emulate a style. It's just like, this is just not good. So whatever, War of the Gods, that one you can honestly, I want my money back. That's our rating system. I want my money back. Good, and then the other stuff. We'll flesh it out. Yeah, it was worth my money. Then comes Crisis on Infinite Earths, and this is, to me, yet another whatever. It's just sort of like, it came out. It's another Crisis book, which really, if we're being stingy about this, crises happen across the multiverses. So really, it should be the same on all the multiverses. But no, don't forget, we flipped the multiverse map over. We're in the emo verse now, baby.
MCR plays in the background.
Yeah, the entire time. Like, it's never silent in the Dark Multiverse. You always have some sort of emo song going on. That'd be very funny. I'd love to see a YouTube animated, like how it should have ended style sort of a thing, where it's like a few characters just talking and like doing witty banter.
And then Black Parade in the background.
Yeah, exactly. They're just going. That'd be very funny. Whatever. This is another whatever book. It's just sort of like Green Lantern, Alan Scott Green Lantern. So the original Green Lantern, who is weak to wood, Joe, might I add. His weakness was wood.
And he's a man. That's rough.
Yeah. I'm ashamed my brain took more than a nanosecond to realize what you were doing. Um, Swiftly moving on. He like turns to the demon or whatever the heck is like wrecking the earth, and he's just sort of like, I will be your dark avatar and show you to a bunch of other earths that you can devour or whatever. He basically becomes like the Silver Surfer to this Devil's Galactus sort of a thing, is essentially what he becomes.
It's literally what it is.
Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, it's
just
whatever. I don't imagine how.
I not only want my money back, I want my time back.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if I go that far, but I would definitely say this is between, like, it's right above War of the Gods for me, where it's like War of the Gods is like bad. This is like not real bad, but it's right on the cusp there. It's like yeah. And then we have Dark Knight's Metal, which I find hilarious because Dark Knight's Metal feels like it just finished. But the more egregious thing is that the sequel series is currently going on, Death Metal, and it is... Death Metal in itself is something that I will get into at a future point because it is bad. The final issue comes out, I think, this week, Joe. It's the final one. It's issue 7.
Seven, yes, it comes out this week.
Issue 7 comes out this week.
It's a cool cover. It's cool. I saw what it looks like.
It is a cool cover, but thank God it's over. I have been buying this book, and all the time, I thought the tie-ins were going to be something kind of like cool. They are like the most connective material. It's like if you want to understand what's happening in Death Metal, you have to buy these tie-in books because major plot elements happen in these tie-in books, and they don't tell you about it. They don't market. They're just like, oh yeah, this book is coming out for like Speed Metal is coming out, and then Barry and Wally and Jay are like, oh yeah, we're fighting the main villain and doing something with the Mobius chair and infusing Wally with all this like Dr. Manhattan energy. Also, Dr. Manhattan stuff is in this series, which is also terrible in its own right. Excuse me. But I'm shelving Death Metal conversation for right now because that's just it's not good. If issue 7 is godlike and makes everything tie up wonderfully and redeems the entire story, then I'll say that. But as of right now, Death Metal is awful. But back to Dark Knight's Metal, which I like how you got so attentive there. You're just like, I'm ready. Which is, number one, weird because it's coming out during the sequel to the original series that it's being a dark multiverse of, and also is the thing that brought about the dark multiverse, and now there's a dark multiverse version of it. It's very, what the hell sort of a thing.
Yeah, when I first realized that they were coming out like a second wave of these a couple of months ago, and I like told you about them, and I saw that this was the last one, I was like, what the heck? I was like, that's kind of weird. I'm like, I didn't read the original Dark Knight's Metal, but like even I know, I'm like, that's kind of, I don't know, it just felt weird. Like, why pick that story? And I guess towards the end of this, it kind of makes sense why they picked it. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the other. Oh yeah, that's because this is.
Yeah, so I know basics about Dark Knight's Metal from you. So going into this, I'm like, okay. I'm like, I have a general idea. I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I actually didn't even want to buy this because I was like, I am so done with this, wasting my money. I could have got so much Wawa by now. Like, am I really gonna waste another $7? I'm like, I can just let Joe waste the $7 and tell me if it's worth it.
$7?
Yeah.
Shit,
it's
they're 6 or 7. I can't remember.
$5.99 and then tax.
Okay. Oh, I pay in cash, so I don't. My guy doesn't do tax if I pay in cash. Haha, sucker. But yeah, that
I
sucks.
pay in cash and I get tax.
Oh,
damn Jersey.
I wonder if that's a Jersey to Philly thing. I don't know. But yeah, so what are you say your impressions on the book first because I'm curious.
Yeah. It very much took me a lot not to talk to you about it.
Right. Yeah, we've been waiting to do this.
So I went into it super low expectations. I'm like, okay, we're just gonna get this over with. You know, hopefully it's somewhat enjoyable. I will say I do not like the cover at all. I think the cover looks stupid. yeah, I don't like the cover at all. And I got into it, and I saw the art, and I was like, oh, I'm like, I like the art. I'm like, the art's pretty cool. And I was a little confused with some of the stuff that was going on, but
Yeah.
I will say, I enjoyed it. That's my final, like, I would say I enjoyed it. I was like, wow. I'm like, I actually enjoyed looking at this book and reading at it and reading it. I'm like, it didn't blow me away or like really get me hyped like the other ones that we mentioned, like Death of Superman and Nightfall, but I still I wasn't regretting the $7. I'm like, okay.
Right.
I'm like, I'm happy I bought it. So what's your
Yeah.
thoughts?
I'm similar.
Okay.
I understand why you wouldn't understand a lot of this, because if we're being honest, the main character in this book his name is Duke. He's also known as Signal, is his superhero name. He was created by Scott Snyder, the author of Dark Knight's Metal and Death Metal, during his Batman run back in 2011.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so like a lot of creators always like kind of like make their own Robin-esque character, sort of. Duke is Snyder's Robin-esque character, and for whatever reason, he has the metahuman power to like walk through the multiverse now, which is interesting. I knew he
Seems
got
legit.
powers. Yeah, exactly. Seems legit. I knew he got powers at some point, but as far as I knew, his powers were just like light stuff. Like he could like emit light and maybe like a laser every once in a while for like offense stuff. That being said, I never really read too much stuff with Duke in it. I was very like Duke was always like in secondary books almost. It seemed like he was never like after he was introduced in the main Batman title, he kind of disappeared from that to go into like I don't know, like Detective Comics and like Batman the Outsiders. I think had him on there for a while. I don't think he was ever a Teen Titan. I don't think he ever joined that team because he's been like part of the Bat family. He might have been in Detective Comics though. But anyway, I'm similar to you in the sense that I enjoyed the book. The art, I agree. When I first saw the cover, I was like, "Ah, man, this is a style." And then when I actually got into the book, I was like, "Okay, this is cool." And I will say, this book, it only had one. It had a few spread pages that I thought were pretty good. It had one that I thought was great, and like two or three that I thought were like decent. But like my favorite spread is seeing Dick Grayson with an axe guitar strum like, and he's like in a heavy metal getup because it's like the apocalypse, and he just strums this guitar and sends this shockwave of sound to blow back all the Justice League dragons or whatever. I love that splash page. I think it's great. And there are some other ones in there where it's like they're jumping in to fight, like the people in the book, like Duke and Dick Grayson and all of them, are jumping in to fight some of the Justice League members who have been turned into dragons, which was kind of cool, but also what?
Yeah. Out of nowhere, I was like, I'm like, okay, I'll go with it.
Yeah, it was just sort of like I mean, I guess so if you say so. Batman, I understood because the villain of the original Dark Knight's Metal, Barbatos, take the name as you will, is the Dragon of the Forge, which to get into like cosmic history real quick of the DC universe, there's the
Give us the rundown.
yeah, the real quick rundown. There are two monitors. There's the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor. Anti-Monitor is responsible for Crisis on Infinite Earth, so like the original Crisis back in '85 and all that sort of stuff. Those would when those two guys appear. They're kind of like the lords of the multiverse, sort of a thing. They see all of it, so there's no multiversal versions of the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor. At least there shouldn't be. Some authors forget that. So it's like, you know, Batman, there are different versions of Batman on the different Earths. It's not like that for the monitors. There's an Anti-Monitor and there's a Monitor. That's it. So those two, like they're brothers. They have a third brother called the World Forger. He's the one that creates worlds and then deems whether the world is, you know, it has the spark of creation and hope in it. And if it does, it will ascend into the regular multiverse. And if it's not, if it's like a corrupted world, he casts it into the dark, they say. Like, he'll cast it into the dark, and in the dark is where the dragon of the forge Barbados lives. And what his job is he's supposed to eat all the corrupted world and stuff like that. Somewhere along the line, Barbados, he gets too big for his britches or whatever, or he wants to shake things up and become something different. I don't remember exactly what it is, because it's steeped in a lot of continuity that Snyder created for this story. But somewhere along the lines, Barbados stops eating the worlds, and that creates the dark multiverse, because all the corrupted worlds live down there now, and so that's where he amasses his dark characters, particularly Batman, because Bruce Wayne in one of the crises got sent back in time, and that's when he caught the attention of Barbados, and that's what sparked Barbados to be like, oh, I could use this guy for my mischievous schemes. And so that's when Barbados starts amassing the corrupted worlds and all that crap. So it makes sense, real quick, that's why I'm talking about all this. It makes sense that Batman, Bruce Wayne, would become a dragon, because Barbados was going to use him as a host to exist. And so that's like the final version of his evil scheme, I would say, if he were to have won in Dark Knight's Metal. Why all the other Justice League members, like Aquaman, becomes a snake, and Green Lantern, for whatever reason, Green Lantern's dead. Like, it's just a hand with the ring, which is not how that works, because whenever the Green Lantern members die, it says Green Lantern of Sector whatever is deceased, and it flies off the corpse and goes to find a new member, like, immediately. And also the construct can't appear unless it's, the person has strong willpower, and if you're making something as big as a dragon, like, there's so much stuff that I could, like, pick apart in this book that is just, like,
make sense.
The physics make no sense. But that's just me being, like, a nitpicky nerd and a bitch. It's just a bunch of Justice League dragons in this, like, hardcore heavy metal apocalyptic world that Duke now finds himself in, with Dick Grayson, who's, like, a guitarist, and he's actually kind of cool. And then you also have Hawkgirl, who is with Hawkman, who is currently a dragon as well. That's also something from Dark Knight's Metal. I'm not going to explain that. He becomes the new dragon in the Dark Forge. That's it. And then you have Flash, who for some reason is a skeleton. And they're like, oh, which Flash is it? We don't know, because it's a skeleton. It could be Barry or Wally or whoever. Doesn't matter. Who cares? And then you have Bobo the Chimp, who is fused with Red Tornado. And those are both two very obscure characters who you probably have no idea who they are.
Red Tornado, I had to remember seeing a little bit before, but it took me till the page where you see what they're supposed to look like. Like, you know what I'm talking about? They show what they look like in the comic, and like,
in the past,
they kind of have like a shadow of what they look like in the past. And I was like, wait, I'm like, is that Red Tornado? I'm like, why is the monkey in Red Tornado? No sexy comments. Like, what?
Put that on a t-shirt. Why is the monkey in Red Tornado?
Like, I was just so confused. I'm like, all right. A lot of times in the book, I was like, I'll go with it.
Yeah, that's really it. Like, I will say this is the best book of the second run by like a country mile. But it's also very much like you have to just kind of like go along with it. The basic plot of it is Duke is like he's the only one with hope left in this apocalyptic version of Earth, and he's like, come on guys. He meets up with Bobo and Dick Grayson and Hawkgirl, and he's like, and Flash, and he's just like, if we're gonna die, we might as well die, you might as well go down swinging, sort of a thing. And they're all like, this kid's onto something. And so they're like, let's just go, which I guess they just needed someone else to be like, let's just go do it. And then they were perfectly happy to go and die for a cause. So they go in and they fight the Justice League dragons and they kill them all. And all the members except Duke die fighting their respective dragon that they're trying to kill. and Duke kills Batman as the Dragon he's just Barbados. I don't know what else to call him. He doesn't have a name. And as he kills him, he fucking skins him and then wears his skin like a knight's armor.
So badass.
You know?
But I'll go with it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the book was already like off the rails sort of thing, because that's just like the sense of like Dark Knight's metal and death metal, all that sort of stuff. But this, I was just sort of like, yeah, I guess that works. And then he walks through the fabric of like the multiverse and comes face to face with Tempest Fuganut.
Dude,
and it's
I
just
was
like
so nervous. I'm like, you do not touch the Fugnut. I'm like, you dare touch the Fugnut? I'm like, no, this is not happening.
You can't touch my precious Fugnut. Don't do it. Yeah, so he meets him, and then Tempest is like, you are the hero that I have been searching for in these past 9 books. And then I think, yeah, and Duke was just like, you're an asshole. Like, you appear, like, you just watch. That's all you do. You just watch as things happen. And then I come and find you, and you're like, you're the one. He's like, screw you. Like, what the hell?
Oh, I was like, the one question I do want to have is, so, like, his get up, like, this whole, he calls himself the Final Knight.
Yeah.
That looks familiar to me. Is that me just imagining things? Or...
It looks like a mixture of Dark Souls and Batman, is what it looks like.
Yeah, Dark Souls. Thank you. It did.
That's what you're thinking of, the Knight. He's not appeared in anything previous. Like, he's not, as far as I know, an homage to anything. The Final Knight is, it's referenced in death metal a few times. Like, the Batman Who Laughs gets chainsawed by Wonder Woman. Spoilers for death metal, if anyone gives a crap about that. But then they take his brain out of his body and put it into the body of a Bruce Wayne who underwent the process of becoming Dr. Manhattan. So we have, it's insane. And Alan Moore is ripping himself in half hearing the news about this book. But so he put the Batman Who Laughs brain is in a body of Bruce Wayne that is blue and has the atomic hydrogen symbol on his forehead. But for whatever reason, I guess Greg Capullo didn't want to draw that. So they were like, oh, his brain corrupts the body, and now it's just a black silhouette of like a creepy bat figure. Like, that's it. Like, it's literally, Joe, it's just a solid black image. It looks like the most lazy thing I've ever seen. It's terrible. And I'm so, because like the Batman Who Laughs design is great. Then you cut him in half, put his brain into the body of Dr. Manhattan, even though it's Bruce Wayne, and then he just becomes this like super easy to draw thing. I'm like, Capullo really didn't have enough time to draw this, did he? They're just like, just make him a silhouette. That's it. Yeah, but so they call him the Final Knight. So then you call Duke the Final Knight. It's like, what is this?
Joe,
what's happening?
There's multiverses. There's multiple Final Knights.
You can't have a Final Knight. He's literally called the Final Knight.
No,
and then you're
I'm
like,
the Final Knight.
There can't be 2 Final Knights. That's the whole point of it being called the Final Knight.
This town ain't big enough for the both of us.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if in issue 7, Duke's Final Knight comes in and it's just, he does that. He's just like, it's can only be one, and then he just kill. That'd be really funny if he just Deus Ex Machina in. Like, the entire set, like, the 15 books mean nothing. And it's just, like, he just comes in and solves the issue. Because it's like, all of a sudden, the Dark Multiverse is now, like, hey, it's tied into death metal now, baby. And that, to me, was, like, the rest of the book was, like, this is fun. And then that was, like, why did you do that? It's
Yeah,
just like, why?
it I don't know. It sounds crazy, and I didn't even read it. Reading this, I was like I said, I enjoyed it, but I could tell it was crazy. But I want to ask you, do you think Tempest is dead at the end?
Oh, um, I don't think so. Does Duke do something to insinuate that he might have killed him? I don't remember.
Well, Tempest is on the ground with his hand on his
Do you?
face. Can you see, Joe?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm taking a goosey gander. Oh yeah, he is. Maybe he just like smacked him really hard because he was angry.
Bitch slap.
He's just like, yeah, exactly. He was like, we're all dying over there. Like I'm walking across all the different multiverses and saying the same thing you are, man. And I'm trying to do something about it. And here you are, looking at the same thing I'm looking at, doing nothing. And he just, and he just smacks him.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know. So,
Do you think?
overall, oh, well,
Oh no, you
yes.
you go, you go. Let me hear it.
Okay,
Joe.
okay. So I would just say overall, I think the first run was better because the highs of Nightfall and particularly Death of Superman were great, and then Blackest Night was okay, and then the other two were real bad. In the second run, I'd say really none of them are worth getting except for Dark Knight's Metal, and even then, it's sort of like it's a more like
Nothing
it's
special.
good, but it's like yeah, nothing special exactly. Um, but yeah, so like you say your piece now, as I so rudely interrupted you.
I was gonna say, do you think we get a round 3 of these stories?
Uh, at this point, I
I
wouldn't be
didn't think we were getting
surprised.
it too. I was so surprised there was a second
I
round.
am convinced they made a round two because they had people with stories that wanted to tell these stories, and they were just like, yeah, you can put them in this, where it's like they're not like super fleshed out, so they can be like their own like Black Label mini series or something like that, and they're just like, yeah, you can just do this, and the fact that it's probably, I wouldn't be surprised if they made this entire second run just for this back door into death metal with Dark Knight's metal with the Dark Knight's metal issue.
That's what
Um,
I thought once I saw that ending. I'm like, oh, I'm like, is this? I'm like, is the whole timing of the release, the ending of this one, and
yeah,
Dark Knight's Death Metal, is that like supposed to go into each other? I was like, I don't know.
yeah,
I'm like,
it's very suspicious because I don't believe the original run. I don't think was supposed to actually like it was leading to like its own crisis. Like we all thought it was going to become its own
that's
thing.
what we thought.
Um, yeah, that's what we thought. That's what we were speculating, and obviously, like a lot of stuff has changed since we were speculating about that. Like they had, whatchamacallit, oh, like massive company shakeups at DC where they were just like, yeah, the head Dandidio was the head of DC, like the chairman or whatever the main title is. He stepped down, like he was asked to leave or whatever for something. So they have a new guy in charge. I don't know who it is right now, but new guy in charge, which they were starting. Remember 5G? Like I talked to you about 5G real briefly. Was like it was gonna be the next
big
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was gonna be their next big thing, and I thought the Dark Multiverse stories were gonna be leading to either a crisis that would take place before, like right before 5G, and that crisis would then lead us into 5G, or at the end of 5G, because 5G was only going to be lasting a year or whatever. Then 2020 happened, and there were company shakeups, and 5G was changed to Future State, which is what's happening now. Like at the time of recording this week begins the slate of Future State, yeah, which is only running for 2 months because that's all the stuff that they made before coronavirus and crap like that, and then like everything went on pause, and then they came back and they just started doing normal books because they're like, we have all these normal books we have to push out, and also for whatever reason we didn't like 5G, so they rebranded it Future State, and it's just a 2 month long event where they're just putting out a bunch of different books because they're like, we already made them and paid for them, might as well put them out. So that's going to happen. So it's like, I feel like they did a second run just to sort of like steer it and then retcon it into being a death metal thing, so they could just end it with death metal.
That's
So
what I think too. It was definitely like, oh, maybe we saw a little bit of success, and this could be a nice avenue to play around where we're not fully committed, but we can still try and make a little pathway into this, and maybe it will work out well, maybe it won't, but it's not going to be that big of a deal. So that was the vibe I was getting, and I don't think there's going to be a third run. I think
yeah, no.
this is it.
Yeah, I'd be happy if this was it, because on like they kind of ran it into the ground, if we're being honest.
Big time.
Like
Big time.
three of
They
these
Mitsuha'd it.
they Mitsuha'd it, yeah. But there was no I love you in the palm. It was just
No,
like
just
like
blood.
they opened the palm and it was just smeared Sharpie and blood and dust, and they're like, crap.
Scraped
Now
my
I
hand.
really don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so hopefully Tales from the Dark Multiverse, you did us well in the beginning of the podcast. You gave us something beautiful to talk about.
Bat Body
Between
Batman.
Nightfall, Bat Body Batman. I love that. That's such a that should also be on a t-shirt. These are all t-shirt ideas.
We'll put them all on one T-shirt.
Yes. Just white t-shirt, just lots of blocks of text. No, don't even separate them. Just one long running block of text of all the different. What do we say? Bat Body Batman. Whatever you said before and whatever I said before. I don't remember them. We'll go back and listen. Whatever. But just all of that, and anything from here on, anything that we say that we want to be put on a t-shirt, it's put on the same t-shirt. You have to resize everything. So like you start off in like really big font, so it's like a square of text on the front, and it's like it fits those 3 lines perfectly on that t-shirt. Then we add another line. You have to keep the same like area affected by text. You just have to shrink the font, and you just keep doing that until the t-shirt is like not legible anymore. Then you start a second t-shirt.
Dots.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we've talked about movies, Joe. We've talked about comic books. That leaves only one type of thing that we gotta talk about next. And I really want to let you take point on this, because I just want you to take point on something.
Let the weeb flow out of me.
Let the weeb flow, Joe. Let it flow.
That does not sound good.
No, own it. Put it on
That's
the
gonna be
t-shirt.
on the t-shirt.
It's
Let
on
the
the t-shirt.
weeb flow. Well, Joe, we are talking about the worldwide sensation known as Attack on Titan. And thank you.
They're not using that.
Perfectly.
Yeah, I know. They're not
Please
using
don't
that
copyright
that
us.
intro. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. YouTube, don't do it. We're not doing. We're not getting paid for this either, so it doesn't matter. But whatever.
Mom's giving me $5.
Oh, did she hear about copyright infringement?
I'll talk to you about it. I'll check
We'll have a
it.
chat later.
But I completely forgot that this was even happening. Like, I knew it was happening, but I didn't know when. And then you had to remind me, and I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, I need to step it up. I'm like, how could I forget about this? They're like 3 episodes in.
Because I saw it in a Mother's Basement video. He was talking about like upcoming anime for the new year, and he was just like, with Attack on Titan already 3 episodes deep, and I paused and I was like, say what now?
Nani?
Nani?
And I was so hyped to finally sit down and watch these, and it was actually kind of nice watching 3 episodes all at once. Actually, I did it last Monday, so I got to watch 4 episodes at once.
You watched
There's
all 4.
No new episode the day that we're recording this, Monday. They took the week off because of New Year's, whatever. Next week we'll have a new episode to talk about, but in this episode, we're just going to talk about 4 episodes real quickly. And I oh my goodness, I love watching this show. I think it is absolutely amazing. All the people that tell me to read the manga, I'm not going to read the manga, because I've started with the anime and I'm going to finish with the anime. I know I'm a stingy motherfucker, but just...
No, you're just loyal.
You know what? Thank you. Exactly. And just watching these episodes, oh my god. I love the shift that they have taken. I was not prepared for it. And the ending of last episode, oh my god, my heart
Ooh,
rate was
baby.
going nuts. And I mean, I've enjoyed every single episode of this new season. Joe, what's your thoughts?
It's very similar. Um, I love it. I love the direction that they're going with it. I was a little like, what's going on in the beginning of episode 1 of season 4? Um, we're probably going to talk spoilers, so if anyone cares about that, first 4 episodes of Attack on Titan, spoilers. Oh, um, and starting it off with the different kids, like the what are they called? The champions, or like the
Mm-hmm.
to be champions in training. Starting off with them and in a war, it's very much like like we left off in a completely different place, and then through context you realize like they're talking about this being a 4 years war, and then like you see characters like Reiner, who looks older, and he talks about having not been to the island for some time, and you're just like, oh, so it's like you find out through context clues, and I think eventually they tell you it's like it's been 4 years since I've been to the island or something like that, and it's like, okay, so we have time skipped a considerable amount here,
Big
um,
time.
which is crazy when really the main series, like not counting the beginning with
The whole first
uh,
attack.
yeah, the first attack when Aaron and all of them were kids, and then like their training, which took a couple of years. Once you actually get into the story of Attack on Titan, it takes place over like what, a few weeks?
Yeah, I wonder what the actual condensed timeline would be like. I thought, like, it just, yeah, everything happens so fast in in the actual story.
Uh huh. Because like season 1, once you get up to the present, is like it takes place with, I believe it's like a day, because like I've just said like 74 times in the last 30 seconds. It's going to drive my brain insane. Um, the wall is broken in season 1, and the Titans come in, and Aaron and all the new trained people are going around attacking, and then Aaron gets his leg sniped, and then he gets eaten, and then he becomes a Titan, and it's so fast paced because it's like everyone's super scared of Aaron, like, oh my god, he's a Titan, what's going on? And then you find out later that there is a female Titan, and you're like, whoa, there's a female Titan. And then like season two takes place in like a day, because it's
Yeah.
when they're riding the horses and they're going through the woods and they're trying to capture the female Titan, and they can't quite do it, but then she goes to bed, they wake up, and it's like the next day, and they're trying to capture her, and they have a big battle, and it's like season 2 is like 48 hours at most. So that's 2 days. Um, season 3, I think there's a little bit more time that passes there because they have to
Yeah,
do
definitely.
traveling and stuff like that. But
Yes.
it's not that long. Like it's maybe a month in total. Like, and I think that's even pushing it.
I would agree.
Yeah. So it's like the entire series that we've been following so far has a lot's happened, but it's been in such a short amount of time that you don't realize. And then when you see 4 years later, you're like,
That's a
what
big
the
jump.
heck?
Yeah, yeah, that's a really big jump.
We haven't had this big of a we haven't had that big of a jump ever, because I'm pretty sure when Aaron is a kid, the time skip between when he's a kid to when he's training is only a few years. Like
Yeah,
it's
I can't remember.
uh,
I didn't rewatch the older seasons before starting season 4 again, but I obviously remember it all. It's weird. I started watching this show in high school. Absolutely wild.
my
Never,
God.
nobody ever thought it would actually come back, or let alone finish being animated. It's absolutely wild. Um,
Right, yeah, it's insane.
like everybody was joking around, oh, Attack on Titan, season 3 it's supposed to happen, and like, oh,
Uh-huh.
season 2 is supposed to happen, and everybody was like, no, 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 it's not happening. It took 3 4 years. I remember telling you like, holy crap, like it's actually happened.
Hmm. And like
And
the break between season 1 and season 2 was like what, 3 4 years, right?
yeah,
It was a
yeah.
long time. But luckily,
Um,
they've been able to get the seasons out a little bit more consistently recently.
and they're amazing too. Like it
Yeah.
went from just being a show where it was like, oh, people liked it, or a lot of people would say it was overhyped, to I think if this ends properly, it's gonna be probably my favorite of all time. Like I love this show. I've loved how the theme, not necessarily a theme, but like the main stuff that gets you intrigued into the story. Like at first it was like,
Yeah.
oh, fighting the Titans and trying to survive, but oh my god, that you don't even care about that at like season 3. You're just like
Nope.
politics.
Yeah. And as we know, Joe, this is a podcast that really doesn't like talking about politics. When we say one of the best aspects of a show is politics, you know something's going on there.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. And to see this 4-year jump, I was like, oh my god, because I was a little confused at first. I'm like, okay, I gotta remember all the lore that I learned last season about Marley and Eldia and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, let me see if I can remember all this. And I was like, wow, I'm like, is this prior? I'm like, is this before Reiner came over? And I was like, what's going on here? I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Did he have to be younger? And I'm like, but why does it seem like this happened so, like, there's such a big time difference? And then when they say 4 years, I'm like, oh my god. And now just like looking at like the poster of the season 4 promo, I'm not sure if you've seen it.
I have.
And seeing the end of episode 4, I'm like, oh my god. All the ideas rushing through my head. I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna happen. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna say it, Joe. I'm like, this is the thoughts going through my head.
Give it
So,
to me.
When I saw, long-haired, single leg soldier, I'm like, I'm like, something's up with this guy. I'm like, and they kept like, doing the little bit of shine on the green eyes and everything, and I'm like, he looks like Aaron. I'm like, but that makes no sense. I'm like, how the fuck would Aaron get over to Marley and nobody would notice? And why is he missing a leg? Like,
Is
doesn't
that
make
possible? He regenerates.
yeah, I'm like, this makes no sense. And then once he starts talking about the letters and having I think his name Marco? Is the kid's name?
No, Marco is the
Oh, that's
guy
the guy
that gets eaten.
Yeah, yeah. What was his name?
Colt is the older brother.
Falco.
Falco. Yeah, his name is Falco.
Smash reference. I love it.
Down,
2 for 1.
Down air.
I'm getting PTSD.
Uh-huh.
Oh my god. But so when he starts helping him with the letters, I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, this is probably Aaron. I'm like, did they infiltrate Marley? I'm like, what happened? I'm like, and I keep freaking out. I'm like, did I like miss an episode? I'm like, what? I'm like, there's so much information I don't know. And then finally at the end of episode 4, when he's like, hey Reiner, and Reiner realizes it's Aaron, I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, they infiltrated Marley. And then and then once I exited out the episode and I looked at the poster, and you see the poster of Titan Aaron, the attack Titan, like destroying buildings, and you see Reiner at the bottom. I'm like, oh my god.
Is it Reiner or is it Falco?
I think it's
because
Reiner.
I think it could be.
Because it looks
I
like
think it could be either.
I thought it looked like a big dude.
It might just be the perspective, but
possibly.
yeah, I don't.
But it's
know.
one of those people, and I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, these Marleyans, or the Marleyans and the Eldians, are talking about attacking the island. I'm like, they're gonna have something coming for them. They're not gonna be prepared. I'm like, holy shit, this is genius.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the series, because it's like your show, like the first 4 episodes, I was getting. It was such a fine line for me, because I wanted so badly to see these characters again. I wanted to see Aaron. I wanted to see Mikasa, there we go. I was thinking of Mitsuha from wow, that's incredibly similar. I just realized that. Mikusa and Mitsuha. Okay. My brain is gonna flip-flop those all the time. But Aaron and blonde boy, I can't remember blonde boy's name.
Armin.
Armin, there we go. Because Armin and Erwin, again, Erwin's another blonde boy. That's really annoying. So yeah, him and Armin, and how the end of season 3, part B, episode 2, Attack of the Clones, how the ending of season 3, part B, is him, like Aaron standing in the sea, and everyone's sort of like, oh yeah, cool, it's the sea, and then Aaron has the knowledge of what's on the other side of the sea, and he just points, and he's super melancholy and like almost defeated, and he's like, if we defeat all of our enemies over there, will we finally be free? And I'm just like, that's a kind of dark place to end it on there, don't you think?
Big time.
And then seeing what's going on in season 3, and like I'd seen the poster, but I didn't really know what the poster was like about. Having watched these 4 episodes, getting to know what life is like for the Marley people and the what are they called? The ones, the Eldians, yeah. Seeing the Marley people and the Eldians living with the like under the Marley control, and seeing the wars that they're waging and like how society works for them. 2 major things occurred to me that just makes this incredible. Number 1, the fact that I wanted to see the characters that I've been following for the last 3 seasons so badly, and the fact that I'm not getting them right now, but still enjoying what I'm watching and getting very invested. Goddamn triumph. It's incredible that I'm still so heavily invested, even if some of the characters I am invested in, like Reiner and the Beast Titan, whose name I can't remember. Zeke, there it is. Those guys, like, you know them, and you have Hitler look-alike number 47 as like the leader of the Marley or whatever.
And then half of them are brand new characters, and still get you involved.
Mm-hmm. Like all the kids between Falco and girl number 1.
I can't remember the girl's name.
I just know she's a badass. She's also Reiner's cousin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is cool because like she's like the leading candidate to become the next Armored Titan, which like makes sense to like all the Eldians. They're like, oh, cool, it'll be like in the family and stuff like that. And then Falco and Reiner are on the same page where they're just like, we don't want her to become the Armored Titan, but we can't say it because if we said it, it would be sacrilegious, and we would look like we didn't appreciate what we were given by the Marleys. So we have to pretend like it's this great honor when in reality it's basically a death sentence because you die 13 years after inheriting Titan powers, and also you're a soldier on the front lines, so you're like in danger constantly. Like, sure, you have awesome Titan powers, but the world is changing. Yeah, you can still die just in general, and also they make it a massive point in showing the age of Titan powers coming to an end, because humanity keeps building better and better technology that's becoming more efficient at killing Titans. So it's like this next generation of Titan inheritors, like, they got a whole nother thing to deal with. And these 4 episodes just do a wonderful job of world building when the rest of the series has already done an incredible job of world building. The entire thing, the world building in the show is a triumph. The character writing and acting in this show, also a triumph. The animation is great. And I'm so intrigued and excited to see the rest of where this season goes. I believe, correct me if you know this, but I believe it's a 16 episode final season, so we are about a quarter of the way through now, and they've been setting up so much, and I'm so ready to see where it goes.
Yeah, I remember seeing somewhere that it was 16, but yeah, I can't wait for the next episode. Like, I'm so mad it didn't come out today, but I guess it's a good thing, because it's like, okay, I gotta savor it more, I gotta wait for it to actually come out, and it's very rare that I actually watch an anime week to week. I'm very much the type of person where it's like, oh, I wait for it to finish, then I'll just like go through it. But watching this week to week,
yes,
really,
I am.
You look forward to every episode. Every episode's like a big movie premiere.
It really is. I've already watched, because I watched the first 3 episodes because they had already come out, and then right when episode 4 was about to premiere, like the day of, I rewatched the first 3 because, again, it was all subtitled, so I did the thing where like I would look at the words really first to get the story. Second go around, it was more to reinforce what was going on, because I wanted to make sure. I'm like, okay, how does Eldian society work under Marley control?
Yeah.
What's the wars that are going on? And also just like other story stuff that I want to try and catch up on and just really make sure that I had it ingrained in my head. like the years and dates and stuff like that. And like watching it, I'm just like, this is so cool. Oh, also, what do you think of the Titans in the first episode being mostly CGI?
Yeah, this was a debate that one of my other friends texted me about. He's like, "Hey, like, what do you think of like the new art style, or not necessarily the art style, but like the CGI with the Titans?" And it doesn't bother me. I think it looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all. Like you notice it, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it doesn't detract. That's my opinion. What about you?
Yeah, it's very close. Like it looks, the CGI has gotten significantly better from when they use it on the Colossal Titan and the
Oh
like
yeah.
the caterpillaring Titan back in the end of season 3 part A or whatever. Like that was laughable. That was like, what have you done? But this time around they seem to have integrated it in way more with like standard animation, so it looks way better. I still think it's a little wonky.
Mm-hmm.
But they have said, I did see like a tweet from someone, I think that was like on the production team, that they were like, not every Titan is going to be CG'd. So whether that's like the Titans that we've seen so far are going to be CG and they're going to introduce new ones that are going to be hand drawn, or whether that means they're going to flip flop between CG and hand drawn for different things. I don't know. But it looks significantly better, and it's almost the point where I'm okay with it. Like I'm like, yeah, this is cool, but it's not quite there for me yet. Like I'm so close. It's like you need a little more time in the oven. But I mean, the story's great, and that's, I can forgive the slightly wonky CGI because it's so good.
It's amazing, and I can't wait for next episode. I'm pumped to talk about it.
So excited. Ugh.
Well, Joe,
All right.
I think it's time to wrap this up.
Yeah, I think we've been going. I don't have a timer, but
You want me to
it
tell you
feels
the
like it's been a
timer?
long one. Oh yeah, tell me the time real quick.
We're over 2 hours, baby.
Oh my god.
Y'all getting a lot of Joes for the new episode.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. Well, I mean, this makes sense. We were. There was a lot of stuff we were talking about, and it was the first one back in a very long time. So it seems only fitting.
We're making
yeah,
up for
we're
whole
making
year.
up. If that were the case, we should have like a 10-hour long episode. Oh, imagine when I was trying to process a 10-hour long episode.
My laptop would catch on fire.
Yep. Oh boy. All right. So, really, this is always to say we're back, baby. Cup of Joe with Joe and Joe. We're back. We're here to hopefully stay, unless one of us like Mitsuhas it and then dies. I like
It would be
that saying.
unfortunate.
Yeah, I like the term getting Mitsuhad. That's gonna be in the notes from now on, so I can like refer back to it. But yeah, so your name, Dark Multiverse, Attack on Titan, new mic, crisp voices. Everybody, subscribe, like the video. I can actually say that now, legitimately, because
Wow.
we're on YouTube. Welcome to. I mean, you're already here. You know what this is. It's Cup of Joe on the channel League of Joes. Again, I got all the other Joes in the back room over there. I'm sure Joe has like one or two in somewhere in his closet or something.
Yeah, they chill out in there every once in a while. Come out, say hi, but they drink their coffee in there.
Yeah, exactly. They drink their coffee like good Joes in the closet. All right, so. Oh, God, phrasing. Anyway, be sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we will see you guys next week for Cup of Joe episode 12, where we will be talking some Iron Giant and some other stuff.
Future
So we will
State.
see you around then. Yeah, oh yeah, Future State. Whatever we end up picking up on that.
New
So,
Attack on Titan episode.
and that. So those will be things that we will definitely be talking about, and whatever the hell else we end up talking about.
Oh boy. All right.
Alrighty.
Well, let's sign off, everybody. Have a good night.